tribe. The word tribe, it's tossed around a lot, but Philip Folsom creates tribe by using unique programs and workshops for corporate team development. As CEO of Wolf Tribe, he also offers a PTS and resiliency program for vets and first responders. Now, Brett, Philip says he uses peace, power, and sacred purpose to build lives. How did you two meet?
I think with pepperoni, porcupines, poppers too. So he likes all these things. So right. So how did we meet? So honestly, so I just caught myself. Never say honestly or may I be honest. That means you're lying the rest of the time. I just caught myself. I don't even know why I said that. So best way not to start off a podcast is by using that word. So Phil, you and I connected on LinkedIn about a month ago or so.
Yep.
And we had a brief 15-minute conversation, a gut check. How'd that go?
It was great. And the reason why is that we threw down the gauntlet about the term honor. And this is a really important topic because it's an operating system that we used to run by. It is the core of tribe. It's the operating system of tribe. It means reciprocity. It means behavior. It means duty, responsibility, collaboration, a shared belief system of a collective project or mission that we're doing. And so honor is the old ancient thing that we do together as men and also women. And It's been replaced by pride, which is a glorification of the individual. And there are not many honor-based cultures left embedded in this giant sea of pride. The military is one of them. It is an honor-based culture. And so when you are dealing with another veteran and you play that card, you just have to know, do they still hold their honor or have they surrendered it in the civilian world?
Their honor versus pride. What's the difference?
Honor means my relationship with you is central, which means that if I betray my responsibilities and my duty to you, I surrender my honor. I've sacrificed my honor. And I will do anything to not have that happen because I lose my place in the tribe. Every example of heroism in the history of our species has come from honor-based cultures. There is no other culture that is so structured that it will empower people to sacrifice themselves for something larger than themselves. So women will sacrifice themselves for their children. That the family should be an honor-based culture. It's oftentimes not.
It's like Bushido.
In our current society.
Are we talking Bushido here?
There's a warrior code with Budo or Bushido. But the pride-based culture is I'm going to get my needs met. And you may just be a means for that, Brett. And that's pride. That is the mercenary, instant gratification, external validation world that the civilian sea is comprised of. And so
let me ask you this then. Hold on.
When you said I'm a veteran, I'm working with veterans, these are my people, I was like, you still got your honor? And you're like, I do actually, which means now I'm safe. I know who you are. And I know that if there's a betrayal, you've just sacrificed your honor for everyone in our community. And that's a tremendous foundation to build companies and business partnerships and friendships on.
So that was a long-winded answer for how we met. We liked each other because we're veterans and just had instantaneous respect.
Boom. There it is.
Let me ask you this question. Talk about honor. If someone loses it, can they get it back?
You can, but you have to make amends.
Amends?
Yeah, amends.
Which
means I have compromised my honor. I own it, and now I must make my amend, right? Which might involve a vision quest, a purification. There's a whole bunch of rituals that are involved, particularly in ancient cultures, and we've lost most of them. But when a warrior has done something that's traumatic, he takes on a certain amount of debris. And Nietzsche says if you fight monsters long enough, you end up becoming a monster yourself. And a lot of us do that. And a lot of us have crossed the line where we did surrender our honor for something. And a lot of that's trauma driven. But in all ancient cultures, and FYI, I'm an anthropologist, so I'm going to go ancient culture pretty often with people, which is why I go a little out there. But
it's okay to be out there. That's why we get along.
We've found ways to reintegrate our warriors back into society and reclaim their honor. and it might look like a different role you play in society. Some of that also has to do with purification. It's realizing, hey, you did some hard shit for the rest of us. So we're going to collectively hold this, purify, regulate, and reintegrate our warriors back into our society. And you even see entrepreneurs, and famous people who they made a mistake and they have to go on their apology tour.
Right.
That is a rough version of a reclamation of honor.
Right. This conversation reminding me of when I was actually, before I was commissioned, when I was ROTC at Tulane, we had the senior, I guess, MOI, not even Marine officer instructor. I guess he was the head of the entire ROTC unit, Colonel Labadie. He was full bird Marine colonel. He didn't like me. But I have a whole bunch of reasons why, but it's funny. He was actually very sad when I was commissioned. We could talk about that another time. But he had one good saying which stuck, which was one aw shit wipes out 100 attaboys.
Yep.
One aw shit wipes out 100 attaboys.
Yeah.
And it's so you can do all, especially today. I think today society is just brutal. There is no, you cannot slip up. You cannot say something off the cuff. You can't be me. You can't be a verbal thinker, especially if you have a cocktail or two. You just can't do it anymore, right? Society, there is no forgiveness, and they just stone you. And especially in corporate America. I heard a story of another peer of mine the other day. He got in a just altercation with the head legal officer of his firm. Bam, bam, gone. And just you can't even have a spirited conversation anymore. And if you don't play the rules and you piss off those above, like boom, you're gone. So society's definitely changed in that arena. So let me ask this question: when you're out and you're a veteran and you're actually, let me take a step back. Give me within just 2 minutes your Army background or your military history, your military experience, just to frame who you are and kind of how you've gotten to where you are today.
I came from poverty, a lot of pre-trauma, and it turned out that the majority of people who go into any of the either first responder, military, law enforcement have 3 times the amount of pre-trauma as the average civilian person. So that's definitely me. Grew up, out in the boonies and went into the military at 17.
Where'd you grow up? What state?
Washington State.
Okay.
Way out.
The forest
Spokane.
dude, mountain dude, or
No.
desert dude? How far east were you? Were you in the? I think it's desert, right?
I was out by Spokane, kind of deserty, mountainy. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I went in at 17, and it was really a way to escape poverty. I was pre 9/11, so there wasn't a lot of that, hyper patriotism of we must defend our country. And so, for me, it was this is how you get out of poverty, and maybe you get to college, because I certainly wasn't going to college. I was, barely got out of high school, right?
Right.
But I was relatively smart, so I got good test scores.
You sure about that?
I know, crazy. At least that's what they told me. They're like,
I'd ask for a second opinion, but I digress.
So I went initially as a 82 Charlie, which is field artillery surveyor, and then after the AIT, Lockheed Martin was looking for people that had apparently good test scores to run their first drone program. So I was one of the first group of soldiers to run the Army's first drone program in the 80s. And at the time, it was very, classified. And, so it's all been declassified now, most of it. And that's what I did spend most of my time doing. The Army eventually canned the program. It's called the Aquila Project. Anybody's interested to see our very first drone, it was fucking cool. I mean, Delta winged, Kevlar, had the first laser target designation system that we'd ever. It was really, at the time, it was like, wow, crazy.
80s, that's cool. Yeah.
And I retrained as a field medic on the way out because they were like, okay, we're not doing that. What do you want to do? And I was like, at least I'll know how to give IVs.
Okay. So you were in from when to when?
I went in 85, and then I did my years. I also did a little bit of reserve time, and I found out that it did not fulfill my honor requirements. So I was not getting the that feedback loop or gratification.
What made you feel that way? What was the standard for you to say that? That's a big. Tell me more.
Okay, and this is for everybody who is an entrepreneur running their own business, military or not, is that the goal is to create that honor-based culture where people will sacrifice some things for the sake of something larger than themselves. And we do that with a foundation of alignment, which includes a shared vision of what we're moving towards, a shared set of values, which just basically defines how we're moving towards our vision, and then a shared mission. And those are the three big pillars of alignment that creates, you can call it kinship, morale, engagement, retention, like all the good shit that we want. And my active military duty did fulfill all those things. I knew what my vision was, right? Freedom and protecting our country and blow shit up. I understood what the values were. They were provided for me. And it was very clear what my mission was, what I was doing. So I felt like I belonged and I understood all of those big drivers of meaning.
Right.
And the reintegration process for a lot of veterans is now you have to discover all that shit by yourself immediately. And most of them just collapse.
Yep.
So the reserve did not do it for me. They did not hit those marks. And very few organizations do, but there are a few of them floating around in the corporate space that actually are driving massive engagement. And my work as a consultant is to enact that within work teams in the corporate space. And I work with Red Bull and SpaceX and a bunch of companies. And really, that's what makes money. It makes them sustainably profit driving.
What makes them money? What makes them money?
Well, there's four big profit drivers, and they all come from this honor-based culture that we're talking about. The first one is innovation. If you need to have a culture of innovation, and the only time you can create ongoing innovation is if people feel safe enough to take risks.
Right.
Because innovation requires failure. And I have a lot of clients that will go, "Hey, can you help us create a culture of innovation?" And my first question is, are you prepared to fail? They're like, "Oh, no. We don't want to make mistakes and fail. We just want people to innovate." I'm like, well, that's why it doesn't work for you. So really what honor does is it makes me feel safe with you enough that I can throw the ball downfield and I will not get canned if I miss a pass.
Yep.
That's honor. The second one is competitiveness. And this is driven by just raw tribalism. Like when I'm part of an honor culture, there's an us, right? And then there's a them. And I will not be defeated by them. I will do more to protect my brothers and sisters on my left and right than I will do for myself. And that ferocious engine of competitiveness comes only from honor-based culture. So that's the second one. Innovation, competitiveness, efficiency is the third one. And then the big bundled kind of sense profit driver that comes from belonging is engagement, retention, resiliency. All of these things are just crippling our corporate culture these days. And it all comes from honor culture or kinship, whatever you want to, terminology makes sense for you.
So if I'm a millennial though, but I want to make more money, I want the next job, and I've been at my current job for 6 months to 9 months, I should be promoted and have a VP title, shouldn't I?
Yeah. That's the curse of rights without responsibility. And our culture is obsessed with my rights, your rights.
Rights and entitlements. Is that the same thing? Entitlements and rights were saying the same thing.
Privilege, whatever you want to call it. Instant gratification, external validation, my rights. All of those things are bought with responsibility and duty. And that is the reciprocity that's missing. Rights are great, right? And
should
promotions are great. But yeah, you fucking earn it. And you earn it by going, I'm part of, you can call it an institution, a culture, whatever organizational frame makes sense for you. And my behavior is creating that for future generations, as well as my opportunities are standing on the shoulders of the giants who went before me. And I'm the bridge of those two things. I'm the bridge of my ancestors or the founders, and then the people coming after me. And that's responsibility. That's duty.
I completely agree.
You're correct.
I completely agree. It's amazing. It seems a lot of times now, and I've even just noticed in my own business and taking care of clients, whatnot, that just service has dropped so much in the last 2-3 years, and where people just don't care. And I think a lot of people have jobs, or employees have jobs, these bigger corporations, it is just a job, and they're happy to pass the buck and delegate with zero responsibility, zero accountability, and they don't care if the issue is resolved. Those come back, hey, I need to get this done. Boom. And then all of a sudden feedback, okay, sorry, I don't understand. Or they just, I'm trying to think, example, one company just tracking revenue. Sometimes you have to do that. And we track all our revenue that comes in, because sometimes some organizations don't always report their revenue the way it should be reported. So I'll just say that. And so we've put it upon ourselves to track all the revenue that comes in for our clients and make sure it's fair, and make sure it's accounted for properly. And one of our vendors, we just tried to, this happened this week, just, hey, we need a simple report, when the money was sent, how much was sent, and the date it was sent, going back for a couple months. And their whole team just had a complete meltdown. We don't have you as a client. We can't find the account. We don't know who you are. I'm like, what? Like, and so I had to actually go up the chain to one of the top executives. I had to come all the way down, because people just aren't trained to think as much as they were a little bit ago. It's like you have a participation t-shirt and you got a job, and then you think you should be promoted just because you're there. And you're not creating a lot of value. You're not taking responsibility. You're not stepping up. So I'm seeing a huge drop in customer service, client service with my larger vendors. And it's just, I hate to say it's part of the norm now, and it's to be expected. So when a client reaches out to me and I have to go to one of my vendors, I let my clients know now, hey, normally this would take 1 day to get you an answer. This may take 4 or 5 days, and it's out of my control, because the vendors I reach out to, it takes them 4 or 5 days and 3 emails and a few phone calls to get the feedback, to get the information I need to get back to you. So I have to set expectations now of lowering standards, because so many corporations have lowered their standards. Are you seeing that too in your world?
Yeah. It's adolescent. We're seeing a rampant rise in adolescent culture. And the initiation process of becoming an adult is, it's not a one-step thing of like, okay, now you can drive, or you can drink, or you can vote. Now you're an adult. It's really a sort of an endless spiral of becoming more and more mature, taking responsibility for your role in the world or organizations. And we're not doing that at all. We're not investing in the upgrading of our people. And this is starting at our children, and I'm just seeing that across the board, is that we're not investing in the development of children. We're not investing in the development of college students. And I lecture down at USC, so I see, waves of kids coming through, and we're not also developing, the mentoring, the people coming in, and we're onboarding them. That's one side of the story. Now, the other side of the story, like I mentioned before, is when you do become a conscious participating adult in the world, right, which is probably in your 20s somewhere, and then you realize that you do have a responsibility to participate in this process. It needs to be reciprocal, and the reciprocity is missing. It's all transactional. It's all mercenary of, I'm going to get as much as I can from you, and it's happening on both directions. So again, we go back to the honor conversation of, hey, we're part of something bigger than ourselves. And that's a hard thing to pitch, but even that is missing in most organizations. And, down at SpaceX, for example, I was doing a workshop with some of their engineering management team, and on the back of the wall of this boardroom are these 2 giant planetary maps, right? Okay. And there's this reddish cracked Mars planet, and then there's this blue-green Earth planet. And we're talking about a shared vision and how important it is to drive engagement and even attract talent. And he points at these 2 globes and said, that's our vision. And I was like, yeah, man, we're going to Mars. And he goes, no, look at the maps again. And I realized that that blue-green Earth planet was not Earth. It was a terraformed Mars. So Elon and his team are not going to Mars. They're going to go get us Mars. And I just use that as an example of sharing an aspirational vision that's big enough that I'm inspired to be part of the team. And I also realize that I'm going to benefit from this journey. So I want to be part of this, and I'm willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to take responsibility and go out of my way to do above and beyond that's the mature thing to do. And I think society's missing anything aspirational these days.
Well, I think you tell me. I could think of certain individuals, which I won't use names, but just we grew up in a culture. You and I, you're a little bit older than me. I was in college mid-90s, but you just failed and failed and failed, and you tried and you failed, and it was okay to fail. Didn't feel good. It still doesn't feel good, right? And I still fail at things all the time, but that's how you grow. It's how you learn. And there's been a shift I've seen where some of the younger employees today just are so afraid of failure. They won't try. They won't take chances because they don't want to fail.
Yeah.
And they're okay with the participation t-shirt. They just don't want the failure t-shirt. And so they're not growing because they're not failing. They're not learning from those experiences, or they are, but it takes so much longer because you can't give tough love. You can't give any criticism on how they can do something better, or else they get their feelings hurt. And if someone's feelings hurt, then you're a horrible human being, and then you're trying to help them grow. Right. But you can't. It's like, by the time they get you, that normally has already happened. There's some sort of initiation phase. So if you go to the military, you're 18, boom, you go through boot camp, and that's kind of a graduation from being a child to an adult.
Yep.
Right. If you go the college route, it used to be the Greek system, you would get hazed and you enter a fraternity. And that hazing process, that pledgeship process, was a kind of a transition to manhood, from boyhood to manhood. And you think you're an anthropologist. I know there's several African cultures. I remember this one tribe, the adolescent boys have to run across the backs of cattle. And if they don't run it across, I think 10 or 15 backs of cattle, they don't become a man. Another couple,
or kill a lion, or every culture. It's not just a couple, it's every single culture. Very structured initiation rituals.
And we're missing that now, because now it's like coddling, and you got the helicopter parents that don't let your child fall, don't let them get a scar, don't let them get a bruise on their leg, don't let them fail, hurt themselves, don't ever let them touch the stove. How do you learn if you don't go through pain? How do you grow if you don't go through pain?
So what the commonality of all those, and we call these shadow initiations, which means they're not complete. They don't contain a spiritual component. And a true initiation means that not only are you're hierarchically bumped up, but there's a spiritual component of transformation, that you're a different thing now. But the military, you can call it hazing, sports, they all include adversity. They all include active engagement and participating in hard shit. So my tough love to everybody watching is we're not afraid of failure. And your people are not afraid of failure. They're afraid of what success will require from them. Yeah.
It's a different perspective. I like that.
Let's own it. You're lazy and you don't want to be uncomfortable. Every once in a while you're afraid, but not really. In our society, we're not really afraid anymore. We're basically just don't want to be uncomfortable, and we're lazy. Like, dig down, like really take a look at why you're not in shape, why you're not saving money, why you're still drinking, why you're still playing video games. Like, you don't want to be uncomfortable and you don't want to do the hard things. Like, okay. And then that's it's not some big esoteric, abstract concept. It's, you're just fucking lazy and you don't want to be uncomfortable for a little while. It takes you to upgrade your operating system. And that's the initiation process. It's hard to do.
I had spent a day with a friend recently, and mid-30s, nice gentleman, and he helped me work on things. I just don't want to say enough because I just want to keep him not being identified. And 36, could do so much more, so much potential, brilliant, sharp, smart. And like, hey, you could be doing A, B, C. You could. So I start my mind. I meet someone. I automatically start looking at them and try and read their potential, what they could be, what they want to do, or what their upside is in life, if they're, no matter where they are. There's one gentleman's like, I know I probably could, but I'm comfortable. I'm like, dude, you're making $20 an hour. You should be making 50 to 75 an hour. You've got mad skills. You're brilliant. You're four times smarter than me, which isn't saying much. But the dude's brilliant, had skills. And anybody's like, I'm okay. I'm like, yeah, you live in your friend's house, and yes, he's only charging you $300 a month for a room, but you could have your own house. You could do so much more. But who am I to say what they could do? If they don't want to do it and they're content, that's their life, that's their choice. So it's hard for me as just who I am. I see, and I want to help. I'm just this helper dude who wants to take someone I meet and help project them, propel them to the next level. And sometimes they just don't care. Like, so I have to catch myself. Don't help those who don't want to be helped.
Yeah.
Right. And if they don't realize it, they don't have the drive, they don't have the passion, I can't have it for them.
Yeah.
And that's what actually all just makes me go down a path professionally. We have situations with clients. We know we could do so much more to help. And we'll do this and this and this and this. And I find myself caring more about their own outcomes than they do. And I had really have to stop. I cannot care more about your own wealth, your own future success than you do. I cannot. I can't, but I want to, which is who I am, which is why I do what I do, because I love what I do. I'm passionate about it. But it's really funny how much I'll find people and couples, we'll get them together, we'll have conversations, and okay, we can do this and this and this, and this will take you from here to there in as short a time as possible. Do you want that? Yeah. Ready to go? No. And they don't follow through. It's like, I can't care more about your own future and outcome than you do. So that was a bit of a digression. Back to you though.
No, you're spot on about those things. And, my axiom is I don't help people who aren't swimming towards the lifeboat. Right. Hey, if you're swimming away from me or in circles, I'm not going to paddle my lifeboat. You need to swim towards me. And I got about 12 seats, bro. Like really my inner circle of the men and women that are, allowed in the keep and that I'm investing my time into. Like, you better be you better not just swimming towards it, but be willing to paddle. Like, that's the deal with me. And if you're not, then, you have a different role in my tribe. Like, you're peripheral. And we did this this is my men's group. And we founded this about 3 years ago. And it was a bit of a savior platform initially of like, there's so much suicide with men today. So many just addiction and depression and anxiety. So, hey, I have some tools. I've been down this road. I mean, I've been doing this for 30 years. I can help these men. So the first, couple of years where we got a lot of these sad story dudes.
Yep.
Oh, fix me. And they just wouldn't show up for the meetings. They wouldn't do the work. We're doing goal setting and accountability, kind of the work you do. And they're just not following through. I'm like, and I, for a year, I'm okay. I'll hold your hand. I'm going to drag you. It was exhausting. And I realized, no, I'm going to start attracting the men who want it. Right.
How did you make that shift? Was it because you were getting numb from trying so much? How did you make that shift? Because I'm thinking where I am right now, and I'm going to share some stories a little bit, but that's what I'll share now. So I'm in the spot where I'm reaching out to 3 to 5 veterans a day via LinkedIn and just sharing our journey, our vision, what we're trying to do, trying to create engagement, trying to create a safe place for veterans to be, trying to promote the podcast so I can help them learn lessons that you've gone through, that I've gone through, so they don't have to go through this. And a lot of the times they're trying to do a startup. They're looking for capital. They need help. I'm like, okay, I've got this connection. I'm going to do here. I'll put together an email. I'll do videos. You need to chat with each other. I'll do all this work. And it's tiring and it takes energy. And then I'll send it and I won't get a response sometimes. I'm like, motherfucker, I just did all this to try and help you. And you don't even pick up the phone to say thank you or respond or just, so I am getting to where you already are, where I'm learning. I can't do that for everybody. I want to, just because who I am, and I try and help. You're a veteran. I'm all in. It makes me feel good to give. It's rewarding for me selfishly when I give and help. But I'm learning I have to add a step of vetting, where if they're not willing to commit back to me in some form or fashion to appreciate the effort, it's not worth my time to give it. Yeah. Because, at the end of the day, time is money. I'm a father. I'm running a business. I'm doing this.
Nothing's free.
Right. And I'm just sharing where I am right now, my own mental state. I find myself last few months giving. And we're getting this momentum going with these veterans. And I love connecting. I love hearing the stories, love sharing. But goddamn, it seems a lot of times very one-sided.
Yeah.
And it's just tiring. It's just tiring. So I'll just give you, actually, you didn't even ask for this, but I loved our conversation when you and I connected. It was like, boom, we were just there, the same spot, we just had a mental like Vulcan moment where it just came together. It was like, dude, you are me, I'm you. You got more experience, right? Which humbly I appreciate, and I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and I'm always learning and I'm always failing, right? And so, but we just had an instant trust. We're like in the same wavelength, and so I have no problem investing my time and effort with you because I know you appreciate it, and I already feel that you're willing to do the same with me. So I need to add, and this is if you can help me with this, let's just do some live kind of counseling. Like I need to have some sort of vetting or process where if I'm reaching out and I'm having conversations, I know the person on the other receiving end appreciates it, number one, and is willing to initiate change to help themselves, number two.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a kettle of fish
Sorry.
right there.
Sorry, man. I was in the mode.
No,
I was in the flow.
So when we talked about the adolescent operating system, which really includes I'm a victim. There's villains out there who are marginalizing me. I need someone to save me. That is the classic adolescent operating system. That's the world. There are victims, there are villains, and there are saviors. And the initiation process is to elevate above that and go, I'm not a victim, and no, neither is anyone else. There are no villains. There are people who are trying to get their needs met, and nobody's fucking coming to save you. You are responsible for you. If there's some part of your life that is not as good as it could be, it's because you are not as good as you could be. So look at yourself in the mirror, take your fucking shirt off and look at yourself. Look at your bank account. Look at your relationship. Like, look at it. It's you. So first of all, take responsibility for yourself. And for the veteran community, man, that disorder stigma, I reject it entirely. Post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not a disorder. It's a perfect adaptation to the men and women who had traumatic events and they had to modify their behavior to survive. It's no longer successful during this phase of their life. I get it. You don't have a disorder. So that's a stigma that has crippled an entire generation of veterans of like, I have a disorder. You're automatically a victim, automatically. And you're not getting a whole lot of traction as a victim in the world. So start moving to post-traumatic growth. That's kind of that's the hot term now of, you're going to heal all this inadequacy by becoming adequate. Like start playing offensive again, enlist in a vision that's inspiring to you and start making money and start getting in shape and start doing the things that actually make you happy. And pretty soon, a lot of that post-traumatic stress, disorder just kind of goes away.
Yeah.
And that's not me dismissing the people who have, clinical depression and anxiety. There's some shit out there that needs to be handled professionally. The vast majority of the veterans that I work with, thousands, man, there's and at the very beginning of this, we need to just reclaim your physical fitness. Like that's how everything starts. Just start looking at what you're eating, what you're putting in your mouth, how you're living, and then do this first, and then do your bank account, right, and your finances, and great. And now you can start looking at how you're going to serve again. Because if you're still weak and broken, you're not serving, and therefore there's not a whole lot of meaning feeding back. You're just like that dude living in his friend's house.
Yeah.
Like play bigger, but to play bigger, you got to fix some pieces within yourself.
I'm listening, I'm understanding, I'm processing, and I'm trying to think of I'm thinking of myself when you share that. And I work out. I ran 5 miles today before our call. I could still do 20 dead hang pull-ups, a couple hundred sit-ups. I could do push-ups. Like I'm a decent shape for an old dude. And I pride myself on that. And so I've got the physical thing down. I eat well, but I work out, so I can eat whatever I want, right? And I still have ice cream and I love gummy bears, and that's what it is. But I'll share where I recently, and Patrice, I don't remember if I had this on the last podcast. I think we chatted about it before the last podcast we recorded. Last week, I went to my first American Legion event in Pacific Palisades, and they had two
podcast. Yes.
Did I say it in the last podcast?
You did. It's
okay.
It's a good story. Share again.
Touch it briefly then. Thank you for clarifying.
Invite me to the next one you go to. I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, I've never done one. And one of the Marines, or actually an Army veteran I connected with, invited me the first. It was epic. And so with that, so for myself, and this is my own head trash. So you talk about physical first and bank account next, and then your head trash. For me, it's all head trash. And so I've always felt, because I'm not a combat veteran, and I've said this multiple podcasts, this is how I felt. It's a feeling. I was like, don't feel that way. It's just, I'm just sharing it was, and now it's past tense, a feeling that I was a second-rate veteran because I don't have a combat V. I don't have the combat t-shirt. And so a lot of my friends did. And so I just felt I wasn't at their level. I wasn't deserving. That was my head trash, my own head trash. But after the last event, the Commander Cragg, C-R-A-G-G, Cragg, he got up and he shared, hey, we need you right now more than ever. There's one thing when you were in, but right now the veteran community needs you more. They need entrepreneurs. They need hiring positions. They need mentors to be there for other veterans to help them grow their next skill set and be productive in corporate America and lead companies and lead teams and lead people and be salespeople and just be productive and be in corporate America. And for me, it was a defining moment where it's like, boom, a light went off. I'm like, I'm doing more now for the veteran community than I ever did when I was active duty. I'm not shooting a gun. I'm not, there's no bullets flying by, but it's actually almost more stressful. Like, no, that's okay. I can make that statement. A combat vet would probably kill me for making that statement, but it's stressful to engage now, almost more so than when I was active duty. And so, but having that epiphany, that moment where like, bam, I'm doing amazing things and I feel great. And even this podcast, all these amazing veterans I'm having on like you, I'm learning so much and I'm growing so much. I am not the same man I was now as I was 2 months ago before I started the podcast. I will confidently make that statement every day. And I feel I'm more equipped and have more skills to help more veterans now and help and do better in business than I ever have before in my life. So going back to your point, sorry, that was a long-winded statement. But I'm doing self-reflection and trying to be present in the moment and understand what you're saying, which is always a task. Is you're saying you'll focus on the physical first and diet second and mental third. I think it's you kind of have to do all three at once, because you have to be working on your mindset to get up to do that workout, right? If I don't have a strong mindset to get out of bed and just do 20 air squats when I get out of bed before I take a piss. And then before I have that cup of coffee, drop down the floor, do 30 push-ups, get some blood flowing. I got a pull-up bar in my bedroom right here. Like I do 20 dead hangs before you go out and turn on the TV. Just start making those micro changes. Micro changes aren't hard, but that's your mental set. Your mindset is also affecting your physical self too. So, sorry, I'm rambling now. That's my pre-workout. I'll shut up. It's my. What do you think about that? What do you think about that?
We got like 2 minutes left, and then we
I know Patrice gonna kill us.
This up. Okay,
we got 6. We got 6.
6 minutes. Okay. Couple things. How the sequence of change management or upgrading your behavioral set works is we all have a story, a belief system. It's your worldview, right? That dictates your potential. Like, oh, I'm a victim, I'm a veteran, I have like whatever your story is. You cannot change that story until you enact a bunch of actions that create a different result, which erodes the old story and gives space for a new story. And those changes of habitual patterns are called practices, and they're very hard. They're very inefficient. They are demanding. They're scary. They threaten your worldview and all your people. So you cannot enact long-term practices by yourself. Eventually you get tired, you get burned out, like something happens and you revert back to baseline. So part of this challenge with veterans and people in our society, the pride-based individual world, is isolated individual lone wolf men and women cannot maintain new practices long enough to upgrade their story. And I'm talking about initiation again.
That's true. That's
true. So we need other people to hold us accountable, to mentor, to give us feedback, to coach us through this process. And it's one of the reasons why that first thing we do, which you getting your physical house in order, that's the one where you get the quickest implementation of a new story, because you can see it. Okay, it didn't in one day. I didn't get abs, but listen, in 2 weeks of eating a little bit differently, my body looks different. 2 weeks of doing my push-ups and sit-ups, my body looks different. Like it's irrefutable story-changing behavior. Now, money's a little harder. Spiritual practice is even harder. Finding purpose and meaning and service, that one is so long-term. that most people have surrendered the field. Okay. So that's my first statement. And then my kind of last closing one about the importance of that last topic, which is this service and purpose and meaning, is we are creating the culture of our families and our teams and society through our actions. So it's not what we're saying. It's not what we're doing, what we're presenting ourselves. It's actually what we're doing. So for our kids, we will do more when we realize that we're installing an operating system on our kids. It makes us live better. We will do things for our kids we will not do for ourselves. And this is when you were leading soldiers,
Marines,
you behave differently because you know they're modeling it. Like your boots are a little tighter, your shoulders are a little further back. You get there a little earlier because you know that they're modeling their behavior off of you.
Yep.
So that's responsibility and duty, and that's kind of the missing piece, because the feedback loop of owning the power of that responsibility, for your team, but also the world, the future generations, your legacy. Like that's the big lever for people, is to realize, yeah, you are important. And if you're living alone, in your friend's house and you don't have any sort of agenda, why? What's the point of getting my shit together? So we need each other simply to create that kind of honor-based feedback of, I'm always going to do more for you than I'm going to do for myself. We're built that way. And if we've surrendered that honor-based culture, then we're stuck.
I completely agree. I think we can
game.
delve into more of this. Would you like to chat more about this another time?
You got
to come back?
Anytime, my friend.
You're in?
Anytime.
Awesome. So if someone's listening right now, I think you're health and I'm wealth, right? So if they want to reach out to you at the men's group or do some PT in the beach tomorrow morning, well, this won't be live until your beach goes through, but how does someone reach you?
Yeah. All right. My two big organizations that I'm running right now,
please.
Wolf Tribe.
It's
mywolftribe.com. I do leadership and culture work for teams. K4 is my men's group, and k4men.com. And if you're a man who's successful and powerful and family oriented, then this is a community for you. It's a massive level up. So
yeah, man, I want to come check out one of them. I have my son tomorrow, but I do want to come check out one of these things when it's appropriate. So on the mental wealth side, again, just throw your two websites out there one more time for me.
It's mywolftribe.com or k4men.com.
Awesome. I'm Brett Henderson, SWE, short for Strategic Wealth Endeavor, Sierra Whiskey Echo 900.com, Sierra Whiskey Echo 900.com. Patrice, you're in charge. How do we do?
Oh, I'm just going to say, of course, make sure to follow this podcast for the latest episodes. Most of all, share with people you know who could use this information. Thanks for being with us. And next time, Philip, I have some questions too.
Oh, whoa, Patrice, big guns. Love it.
God, I want her narrating my life.
Right?
I love it. We'll talk.